Hey, what's up, everybody? Moving on to a second video. I re-uploaded a different version of this video because I felt like it needed a little bit more context. So I don't know if you guys remember. I can't recall if this was covered by Mr. Ballin, Mike from that chapter, or Coffee House Crime, but in 1984, just days before Christmas, Janelle Matthews was dropped off at her home after a recital from school and signaled her father that she was in the home safely. With all the lights off, she turned on the light, went to the window, waved at him, and he was on his way to go pick up his second child, his second daughter, from practice at school. And their mother happened to be away on a business trip in California. When he came home, he's seen all the lights, he's seen the TV on, he's seen her blanket, seen her snacks that were, surrounding where she was at. And so he called out for her. There was no response. Him and his daughter began to search the entire house. Nothing. They couldn't locate little Janelle Matthews whatsoever. And so he decided to call the cops. And this, again, happened in Greeley, Colorado. Now, for those of you who aren't from Colorado, Greeley is a rather small town, and it was very much smaller in 1984. Now we have the University of Northern Colorado that's in Greeley. So Greeley's kind of a college town, more or less now. A lot more modernized, a lot more shops. The What I'm going to be adding to this video is just context of what had happened and how it finally came to a close. For people who have this misconception of certain areas, yes, there are a lot of places in Colorado where, a lot of farming, a lot of cattle, and around those areas in UNC, in towns close by, like Fort Collins, where CSU's at, you get the constant smell of manure. There's no other way around it. You become accustomed to it when you've been there long enough or when you visit quite often. But I can't recall how many times I took friends or girlfriends and they're like, wow, I mean, the stench is overwhelming, which it is. But, that's how unpopulated it was at the time. It doesn't seem so bad now, but nonetheless, the Greeley police had a lot on their hands. Mind you, they weren't a big precinct. They weren't, provided aid from the CBI, which would be the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and certainly not from the FBI. So they continued on. They found footprints, foot tracks leading from certain areas of the home in the backyard to a window where it appeared that the screen was removed and the window was slit open. And so it was a kidnapping. About 38 years later, they were bulldozing a certain area here in Greeley. Well, I'm not here in Greeley, but I just say here in Greeley, here in Colorado, in Greeley, and came upon some remains. From those remains, they were able to identify that those did belong to little Janelle Matthews. And from a lot of what I would say would be the crime scene investigators, CSI, they saved quite a bit and were able to find a definitive match. Now, it'll be said in this tidbit that I add of what this individual provided to the police, knowing very well that he could one day end up more than just a suspect. I think you kind of see where this is leaning, but I certainly do not want to give any spoilers away. So let me go ahead and play this for you. I found it very interesting that after all this time, 38 years, they found her killer. And, all those years, as a parent, we're not supposed to bury our children. Our children are supposed to bury us. And when something like that happens, you hold out hope. A good example of that would be that sicko Ariel Castro, who had, 4 or 5 women trapped in his house for over a decade, impregnating them, doing the worst of the worst to them. and not knowing if your child's alive and well, or if their body was just dumped, like if it was some roadkill. To me, that would be the most awful feeling in the world. And to a lot of parents, not knowing is just, it's awful. So let me go in and play this tidbit for you because I felt that it was very crucial to what and how the case moved forward. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but for those of you who aren't, here you go.